Hey, welcome back to another Patreon lesson. Today I thought I would do like a little breakdown of the process that I had. There was a recent song that I was hired to play drums on, percussion, and then mix remotely for an artist that doesn't live here in Nashville. And with this particular song, it was pretty pop oriented. And so he wanted real drums on it, but the song definitely didn't lend itself to having, very organic, natural drum sounds. And so I was kind of thinking about the way I was going to set up the kit in a way that would provide some of the humanness of a person playing a kit, but with the sounds being very controlled and able to be processed heavily to kind of act like samples or a loop kit or something that was programmed. Um, and so it turned out really cool, and I posted some clips of it on my Instagram and had a couple people say, hey, you should do a Patreon video about this. So I thought I would kind of break it down for you. So I guess first what I'll do is talk a little bit about the setup. This was a couple weeks ago, so I'm not able to actually show you the setup. I didn't take any pictures, just not knowing I was going to be doing a video on it, but I can kind of explain what I had set up briefly, and then we'll jump in and I can show you all the tracks and how I processed them, especially since I mixed this song as well. These will be like what the final files sounded like. So as far as the setup, um, I think control over like being able to have control over everything heavily was kind of my main goal. Um, so really, you could do this with any setup, like any kit. But I do have certain things I picked, knowing that they'd be more easily controllable and speak more like samples. So, for example, for the kick, I had my little 18-inch Ludwig concert drum. You've probably seen it in other videos or something else. It's like a red, white, and blue wrap, and it's only got a batter side head on it. And so I set that up. It's 18 inches. I don't know how deep it is, but that with a heavy blanket in it, so it's very dead. Sounds very kind of boxy in the room, but I'm able to get the two kick mics, like the dynamic mic and the sub mic, right in the inside of the shell. So if here's the batter side and here's the reso side, even though it has no head, the mics are like right in here, pointed at the center, and they're perfectly in line. So I'm able to get a really, really tight kick sound, but also that even though it's a little guy, getting the mics in there and boosting some low end with like a Pultec kind of thing really has a lot of proximity effect, and so it can sound big and almost subby, kind of like a organic 808 ish kind of thing. It definitely doesn't have the length, but it has kind of the punch and the low end information that would have. Um, for the toms, I set up my two Ludwig toms. They're from a 70s kit. It's 12 and 14. And they have like some clear dot heads on them, but basically I just laid some t-shirt, like a piece of a t-shirt that I cut out on each drum, which I do quite a bit, it seems like lately. And it's not actually, both sides of a t-shirt. It's actually a t-shirt that I cut out so that it's only like one ply of a t-shirt, and so I laid that completely over the rack tom and the floor tom, and they're basically just held in place by the mic clips. Like basically, I'd lay the t-shirt over and then clip the mic on the rim, and then that holds it in place, so I don't have to tape it or anything. And I can still move it off if I want to when I do that. So it was 12-14, but I've got them tuned. I had them tuned pretty low and kind of thuddy. So real short sustain again, just like the kick. Um, and a good amount of low end, like I can get the close mics in pretty close. I'd say they're maybe I don't know what that is, like 4 or 5 inches off the head or something, pretty close. um, just so they're really capturing a lot of the body and low end of the toms. And then for the snare, I had my Black Beauty tuned kind of medium. I'd say medium, yeah, probably medium. I was almost said medium high, but it was medium tension. But what I did was I had a small piece of a rag on it, like a shop rag, just to kind of cut down on overtone. And then I had this little Meinl. I should probably grab it. Just one second. Um, Sorry, I know that was probably super loud. I should have grabbed this before I set up. This little Meinl thing. I don't know what it's called. It's supposedly for djembes. I think I saw Aaron Sterling was the first person I saw do this trick. But you basically just take this noisy metal thing and you set it on the batter side of the snare, just kind of off to the side so you're not hitting it. And then I use the scaff tape that's stuck on it to just kind of pin it to the rim so it doesn't move. And so basically as I hit the snare, it kind of lifts like that and then comes back down, like almost like a gate kind of. And you hear a little bit of these rings on here. You hear a little bit of that metallic kind of texture, but it's pretty tight. And so that was cool just for adding a unique texture to the drum. And also since I knew that I wanted it to be kind of sample-like, I know I was going to be hitting it and processing it to where it'd be very consistent, but also with that, what's cool is naturally every hit sounds slightly different in terms of how that reacts, because it's going to just naturally jump up or move around a little bit differently every time. So it kind of keeps the consistency of the tone of the snare, but you get that slight textural difference, so it keeps it moving. It's a very subtle thing, but I think just that slight metallic kind of attack and then the slight movement of it just creates like a cool texture. So I think that was it as far as the kit. And then cymbals were tracked separately, so I'll show the cymbal tracks, but I knew I was for sure going to do the crashes completely separate just because I knew I wanted to compress and use saturation pretty heavily. And so those are the things that kind of get out of control in like your overheads when you want to compress something really hard. So I did track the hi-hats with the kit because they're pretty simple and I could just play them really light. They were just like my pair of cheap Paiste like 402 something old cymbals, and I think I may have had like a t-shirt on those as well, just to kind of keep it quiet and keep it darker. But yes, crashes were tracked separately, which of course if you're doing something where you need a ride sound and a more intricate like part of the cymbal is more of an intricate part of the sound, then this may not be doable. I just knew this was mainly going to be kick snare hat with some crashes and an occasional tom fill. So that's why I was able to set up like that. Quickly, the mic rundown. Well, here, I'll just talk about the mics as I go through each track. That'll make more sense. But yeah, I just wanted to explain, the kit setup first, just so you kind of know what we're working with here. But yeah, the general gist or goal with the actual setup of the kit in the room was to keep everything very tight, controlled, so that I could have a lot of flexibility in mixing to process things how I wanted. So I think what I'll do is just kind of focus on one section of the song. This is the whole song. I took out all the other tracks just because I don't necessarily have permission from the artist to post the song, but still I think it would be beneficial to just show the drum sound. So I think we'll just focus on this end section. It's kind of like a chorus outro, just kind of it rides out for a while on the end of the song, and this is probably the part that has the most involved playing, so this is probably the best part to focus on. So let me create a little loop here. I'm not gonna, when I let it play, I probably won't let the whole section play just because it's decently repetitive, but I think what I'll do is just play the drums how they're finished with everything on all together, so you kind of hear what it turned out like, and then we'll start back at the beginning and kind of build up so I can explain how I processed things. And what I'll do is try to kind of go quickly through things that are not very interesting or unique to this, and focus more on the things that I did that were kind of more unique to this sound. So I'll try my best with that to keep it as brief as I can. I know I can be pretty long-winded, so all right, let's play the drums. Again, cymbals were tracked separately. You can see these two cymbal tracks down here, overheads and rooms, and then these tracks right here are all the kick, snare, hat, and toms. All right, let's play through some of this. All right, I think that gives you a good idea. Now, I did hear something that I must have hidden that's playing still that's not part of the main drums. Okay, there's these sampled crashes. Um, that was kind of that thing you're hearing. Everything else was the drums. So I'll have that muted. And by the way, I will show this is all perk tracks, and they kind of were a big part of the way the drums like danced and moved in the song. So once I get done explaining the drums, I'll kind of quickly show what the perk was doing, just because they fill in a lot of the gaps and kind of keep the subdivision of the song going. Because the hi-hat pattern was pretty simple, and I knew I was going to rely on like shakers and tambourines and stuff to kind of move the song and keep it feeling dancey. All right, so you've got to hear the drums now. Let's get into my mixer so I can turn everything off and work kind of from the beginning up. So I think that's everything that I have for this lesson, video, whatever you want to call it. I just thought it'd be fun to kind of show an approach that I use to get, you know, a real kit capture, but process it in a way that feels more sample-like, more pop sensible, but also with, you know, its own unique texture of some of that crunchier stuff and pitch shifting and using different processing to kind of give it its own sonic footprint. If you've got any other further questions on this, feel free to reach out. It's something I do this kind of thing a lot and really enjoy just seeing what I can create out of that. So if you've got ideas you want to bounce off me or something, feel free. And if not, I'll see you next time.